Mr. Zine. Sergeant, can you check the rear chambers, please? Good morning again, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, January 5th, 2005. Happy New Year. I wasn't here yesterday, and thank you for your patience. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we do invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Weislein, Padilla, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is now officially in session. Colleagues, as many of you are aware, we do have a special briefing and presentation scheduled for this morning. As soon as Ms. Gruel returns into council chambers, we can get underway with that because we have some special guests with us for that presentation. In the meantime, let's go through and dispense with consent items. Madam Clerk, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Zine moves, Mr. Garcetti seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Villaraigosa moves, and Ms. Hahn seconds.
Mr. President, this is the time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
Okay, let's hear at this point from Juan Jimenez, William Morrison, and that's it.
Good morning, Chairperson and council members. My name is Juan Jimenez. We need your professional services. Our organization is a tax-exempt 501c3 ruling under IRS. After 30 years of serving the underprivileged children and their family members, this organization funding has come to a halt due to the war and cutbacks from various governmental departments unable to funnel further revenues towards this long-standing organization which serves all folks regardless of race, color, or religion and income. Our primary population is Hispanic by 65%, white 8%, African Americans 5%, Native Americans 3%, and Asians 19%. Low income 60% and poverty 40%. Living in the immediate community area of Boyle Heights, demographically east of Soto Street, west of Indiana, south of San Bernardino Freeway, and north of First Street. 45% residents. Other residents live out of our mentioned demographic area are approximately 15%. Then there are other residents living in other parts of the city of Los Angeles, which is approximately 25%. Then other residents from the county of Los Angeles is 15%. We are the one and only organization that exists in the mentioned demographic area of 29,000 residents. Our services are multiple in order to meet the needs of youth and their family members who come to our organization for help as follows. Senior lead officers of Hollenbeck Police Department use our center for community meetings to keep an open dialogue between residents and Los Angeles Police Department regarding crimes and issues, and this relationship has decreased crime problems in the mentioned target area. Parenting courses are conducted with the entire family who sent us either by court or the Los Angeles County Department of Children's Services.
Sir, may I ask you to conclude,
Entrepreneurial
please?
training and leadership training, which includes crime prevention presentations, creation of home-based business record keeping of inventory, marketing, telemarketing, business and tax license, purchasing and pricing, businesses, languages, and
Jimenez?
dress codes.
May I ask you to conclude, please?
Yes. I have here a package that I hope that you, as a chairperson of this committee here, Council, would distribute the DVD to each member, and also a letter that has been written here to each member here, so that they go ahead and review this at their own leisure time. We do need to avoid of closing our doors. Maybe somebody somehow, either from the council, your resources could help us.
Okay.
It isn't a whole lot of money either. A lot of agencies do receive much more than what we're asking for. And the minimum that we would be asking for is at least $50,000 to hold us up for 1 year, and gives us an opportunity to look for private fundings and everything else, because the landlord has given us already notice to move out.
Okay,
A verbal
I'll have the
notice.
sergeant take that from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please, Mr. Morrison.
Happy New Year's, Mr. Padilla. I'm speaking on 2 items today. I'm also speaking on helping operation. Yes, I'm asking the board, my future colleagues, to consider this fact and vote on it today to get special funding for this issue. Next item I'm going to speak on is one item that deeply concerns me, that this council is very well aware that they rezoned District 1 that didn't qualify me to be on the ballot. And I would like the council members here to probably send a letter to the city clerk's office to extend my time on my nomination petitions. Mr. Reyes knows what I'm talking about, and also Mr. Vergosa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes general public comment for today's meeting. Is Ms. Gruhl here yet? She's not here. Let's take the next items. Madam Clerk.
Next item is, Mr. President, items noticed for public hearings. Items 1 through 4 are street lighting districts and ordinances either confirming the assessments or abandoning.
Members, items 1 through 4 are now before us, and I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearings are open and closed. Members wishing to call any specials? Items 1 through 4? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items, Mr. President, 5 through 11 are building and safety confirmations, and the department has advised that on items 5 and 8, those can be received and filed in as much as the assessments have been paid.
Okay, so that'll be the council action on items 5 and 8. Do we have a request for continuance on item 11?
Yes, a request to continue that matter for 1 week to January 12th.
Okay, then without objection, item 11 is continued. On items 5 through 10, again, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearings are open and closed. Do we have any requests for specials? Ms. Hahn?
I'd like to continue item 7 for a couple weeks. 1 week.
For 1 week, that'll also be January 12th. Without
Thank you.
objection, item 7 is continued. And if there's no further requests for specials or continuances, let's open the roll on items 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 12, and that's also a public hearing item.
Again, without requests from members of the public to address the council, public hearing is open and closed. Anybody wishing to call item 12 special? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 13 is a public hearing item, and there's a request, applicant requests continuance to January 12th.
Okay, any objection to continuing item 12? Seeing none, item 13 is continued. Next items, please.
Items for which public hearings have been held, items 14 through 37.
Members, items 14 through 37 now before us. These items have had public hearings in committee. A motion from the floor would be required to reopen the public hearings. Specials beginning with Mr. Zine. 22, call special by Mr. Zine. Mr. Reyes?
37 special, please.
37, call special by Mr. Reyes. Any other specials? Ms. Han?
Thank you. I would like to continue item 17 for 1 week and then call 19 special.
Okay, 19, call special by Ms. Han. Item 17, motion to continue for 1 week, also without objection. Any other specials? And again, for the record, these items have had public hearings in committee, and since there's no motion to reopen the public hearings, council is ready to act on the balance of the items. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Those are all approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, 38 through 58. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, these items are before the council today. Items 38 through 58 now before us, and I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Public hearings are open and closed. Members wishing to call any specials, 38 through 58? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Those are approved. Forthwith on item 40, please. Next item.
Next items, Mr. President, are closed sessions, 59 through 63, and I believe there is a request to continue 61.
Yeah, we've received a request to continue item 61 for 1 week. That'll be January 12th as a new hearing date. Without objection, the balance of items 59 through 63 are closed sessions. We'll hold those on the desk.
Going
Next
back
item.
to the items called special, item number 19 was called special by Councilmember Han.
Ms. Han, item 19.
Thank you. Is there anybody here from the airport? Well, you know, members, I was going to ask a few more questions, but I just called this special. It's we're actually just receiving and filing it. Last June, I was approached by a member of a neighborhood council who is disabled and drives a large van for disabled people vehicles. And at that time, LAX was beginning to close some of the inner parking lot areas that were accessible to people with disabilities, and were instead instructing them to park all the way in Lot C. And for some of you who know where Lot C is, it made it very difficult and burdensome at that point to park your vehicle and then find a way to get on a shuttle and be transported in the airport. So I asked Kim Day to look at how we might do a better job of accommodating people with disabilities, particularly those who drove in those oversized vans. They did not fit in some of the parking structures at LAX, and to LAX's credit, they quickly looked at reopening some of the metered parking lots right outside of the structures in the inner circle for disabled vans, and also looked at retrofitting some of the structures so that in fact those vans could fit. What I was going to ask LAX personnel today, and maybe they can get back to me, one of the other issues was people who have disabilities and are driving these vehicles sometimes come across the first parking lot attendant and ask where they might be able to park their vehicle, and at that point some of the parking lot attendants weren't as well informed as they should have been in terms of instructing people on where to park. So I am happy they have taken action to accommodate people with disabilities at the airport, but I wanted to make sure that all parking lot attendants within the airport were willing to or were knowledgeable on the information on where these vans might park. So hopefully I'll get that information back, but I did want to bring this to everyone's attention that those driving the oversized vans to accommodate a disability now can park very close to the terminals, and it's much more accommodating. I want to thank Kelly Salas, who was with one of my neighborhood councils who brought this to my attention in the first place. And I think this is a solution long-term that will really help everyone who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Han. Other members wishing to be heard on item 19? If not, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 22, called special by Councilmember Zine.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's some questions that I have on that. I'd like to continue that till Friday, please.
Okay, any objection to continuing item 22 to this Friday, that would be January 7th. Seeing none.
Thank you.
Item 22 is continued. Next item, please.
Next item is item 37, and that was called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I just want to thank Councilmembers Weiss and Labange for bringing this issue forward. We're asking on red flag days to essentially provide access ways for our fire department, emergency vehicles during times when our hillsides are vulnerable to potential fires. And what I wanted to do is, on Directive 3 in our committee report, we talk about involving input from affected neighborhood councils. That for me is very critical. In my district, in Mount Washington, Montecito Heights, Lincoln Heights, we have some very, very old streets. These are streets that were designed and developed in the 1930s. So our ability to provide maps, our ability to contact the neighborhood councils, the homeowner associations, and those advocacy groups that talk about open space, that talk about safety measures, and getting our vehicles in and out of these hills is important. Ultimately, the question is going to be, if we're asking people not to park on the street on these red flag days, where will they park? We should be providing our constituents an alternative, maybe designate areas in which they can park, so that way they have a place to go once these red flag days are announced. We should at least allow them an understanding of which strips, which corners, which corridors will be impacted, so people on those addresses understand that that morning or that evening before red flag day or during red flag day, they have a place to go. So I want to thank my colleagues for this important observation of this policy, and let's give our constituents an alternative so that way they're not left with a predicament. If they have an emergency at home or they have to get to an important event or whatever it may be, they have a place to park and minimize inconvenience. So I want to thank my colleagues for that. I just want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that, and absolutely, I agree with that. I don't know if that was if that's a motion, an amendment, or just a concern. Whatever it is fine with me. And it's probably less than 24 hours ago that we were driving together along just the exact streets that you're talking about, and so I understand exactly where you're coming from. And then I think on Friday we're gonna do another piece of legislation related to those streets as well. But thank you for that, and I couldn't agree more.
Just to be clear, let's make that an amendment in terms of providing maps to the neighborhood councils and homeowner associations so that when red flag days are identified or declared, that the people in those particular corridors understand why they can't park in front of their home, given the need to have these vehicles, emergency vehicles, have access to the hillsides. Thank you.
So that's an additional instruction.
Yes, please.
Adopted as a friendly. Mr. Labange.
Very much, Mr. President, members, and thank you, and Mr. Weiss, thank you. I believe this tragedy that took place on January 1st, 2002, with a fire in Beechwood Canyon area, and I know Chief Manning is here. If you come to the center table, just to this came out of Battalion 5, I believe, in their efforts, and was expanded to the Hillside Fire District. We've got to have the Assistant Fire Chief just give a breakdown on this. I think all of us obviously want fire safety when there's the brush season and all. We do have older neighborhoods that have, from Mount Washington to the Laurel Canyon to Hollywood Hills, substandard streets. We certainly want to make sure everybody's safe, but we want to make sure there's proper signage and warning, and not a hostile hookup of towing, unless it certainly is an emergency. Give us a little breakdown on how the fire department sees this and the efforts of Battalion 5 out of Hollywood, which expanded throughout the Hillside Mountain District.
Absolutely. Chief Manning, Terry Manning with Los Angeles Fire Department. Just want to thank Councilman Labange and Weiss's office for their tremendous support on this program. What we've done is a lot of study and analysis of the Oakland fire as well as San Diego brush fires. And what has happened now that hasn't happened 20 years ago is countless civilians are being burned to death in their vehicles during the evacuation in a wind-driven brush fire. Through these analysis, we find LA cities, our mountainous hillsides, have many of the same common factors that these areas have. Currently, through council support, we contract out with a heavy lift helicopter. We have a very, very well-staffed fire department, well-equipped and trained. But what we have found is with the narrowness of our roads, on a red flag day, when we have a mass evacuations of civilians, that fire department will be very ineffective in order to get there and make an impact. That's why it's imperative that the fire companies get out there and identify those choke points, those key choke points on those narrow roads, so DOT can post them, so we can do community education, but then on those critical red flag days, which are approximately 4 to 10 days per year that we understand are extremely critical, that we can have that improper enforcement measure to ensure fire trucks can get there and the civilians can in fact evacuate in the event of the incident.
Yeah, Chief Manning, thank you very much. I think it was Task Force 35 and then Captain Castro was a crew there. Hook and ladder could not get up the Holly Ridge. They had to run supplies up to the hill. Unfortunately, there was a fatality in that fire. This will go a long way in trying to prevent that type of situation. And members, I will say, although we're having a rain season right now, I will tell you it's going to be a good, potentially good fire season this fall because of the deep, beautiful rains that have come, and I call that because it has nourished the soil. The sprouting of the chaparral is ever more present in the next few months. There will be a challenge for us in the fall, so this is timely as we prepare. Because the worst fire season is not necessarily the summer in Los Angeles, but it's October, November, and that's when Oakland had their tragedy. That's when we had our tragedy last year. Chief Manning, thank you very much, all the Mannings, both past and present, for their great service to the city of Los Angeles. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss, and your staff. And Mr. Reyes and your staff for working on this, as well as Mr. Garcetti. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go away now. We have next to speak Mr. Zine, followed by Ms. Gruhl, then Mr. Parks, then Mr. Reyes for a second time, and Mr. Weiss for a second time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question regarding the real aspect of posting, notification, and I totally support this. And I was up in the hills of Hollywood last evening and noticed that the streets were very narrow, cars parked on one side. I had a difficult time navigating with just a regular passenger vehicle. So I know there's a real crisis situation that we have a problem with, and when the roads were established, especially in the Mountain Fire District, which I represent, that Southwest San Fernando Valley, we have many narrow roads, a lot of cars, and I don't know how the apparatus, even an ambulance, could get through to do what they need to do to save someone's life, or a fire truck, an engine company, a hook and ladder, whatever the case may be. But the practical aspects, the posting, red days, how are the people, the visitors, how are they going to know it's a red day? Because how's the advance notice come out? And if DOT posts those signs, those days that people need to pay attention, if you post it year-round and we don't know when the red alerts are going to be, how are we going to do that?
Absolutely, and that's a critical component because they will be posted and they will be allowed to park there normally. On a red flag day, which averages 4 to 10 days per year, are our greatest concern. On those specific days, we have multiple methods in which to notify. The simplest, every fire station on that day will fly a red flag. Secondly, all the traffic channels, all the news media that day will go out with the announcement that is a red flag specifically in LA City that day. The neighborhood city council people will also be notified. But one thing we will also do is the 311 information number, that if people have a doubt, they know it's windy, they have a concern, they hear red flag notification, they call 311, and that operator will give them specific information that, yes, LA City is in red flag alert today, and that means that the no parking enforcement program will be monitored. In addition, the final component we will do is red flag normally starts at approximately 1300 hours, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when our greatest concern is. In the morning of those days that we know a red flag alert, our CERT program volunteers, as well as fire departments in the brush patrol apparatus, will patrol those streets, vehicles that will be impacted. We will put a notice on their windshield, and we will attempt to knock on the windows or their doors and notify them, be advised, if this vehicle is here in 3 hours, it may be very well towed. So we think that was prudent, and as far as a lot of it will be the advanced community notification. When we send out our 250,000 brush notices in May about clearing your property. They will also get an extensive document that outlines this whole no parking enforcement program. But again, we have about 18 components to our community education module for this because we realize it's critical. And the key component is that morning, if they don't know, they call 311 and they will tell them. That morning, a firefighter or a CERT volunteer will be knocking on their door or putting a notice on their car in advance of the actual towing of the
And we're talking basically everything from Mulholland to Sunset, Mulholland to Ventura, that area?
Yes, we're talking Mount Washington area, the Mulholland Mountains you're talking about, north of the 210 freeway where we have an issue also, all the council districts. These maps are identified. Every council office will have a copy of the map. We will go to homeowners groups and show the maps, and they can look exactly on it to see if in fact they are impacted in that area.
So there'll be an extensive public education program for the residents, and this is primarily residential area that we're discussing, but not every street, certain streets will be identified.
Not
Correct?
every street, only what we determined was just the most critical portions of each street. Where
So
it
may not be the whole block.
it will be the less the better.
Okay.
Small amounts of area, the choke point on that street that is the most narrow, that has overhanging trees, the narrow walls, where the fire trucks truly cannot get past. That's our greatest concern.
And just one more final question on the posting the sign. There are many signs, no parking, no stopping, no this, no that.
Right.
They're red and white. Are they coming up with a distinguishing sign for this, or are they just going to use the regular type of signs that are currently used?
I know DOT was involved in the design of that process, and we have the assistant general manager.
Just so
here.
it'll pay attention to people, and hopefully we won't have too many cars cited or impounded, because the first place they'll complain is the council office, and we obviously are concerned with public safety. But I like the education program.
Great.
The aspect of the sign, will there be any differential between that and the regular signs that we're posting?
Yes, Alan Willis from the Department of Transportation. We're going to be using the no parking symbol sign to distinguish it from the normal message signs.
The P
So it'll
with
have
the slash.
P with the slash through it. And so it's going to be tow away, no parking anytime on red flag days. And then it'll have down at the bottom probably call 311 for information. So
Okay.
it'll have all that information on the sign, a very distinctive looking sign.
Great, okay, thank you, thank you.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla, and I know lots of questions have been asked. I'm standing up actually to support this in my district, and I know that the department has worked very closely with us in my Sunland Tahunga area, which is particularly vulnerable and has some streets that aren't paved, some streets that we have found recently. Part are owned by the city, and some they've paved over parts that were private property over the years. And so we know that there are some challenges, but this is so critical in the city of Los Angeles, and the education process you're going through, I think, will hopefully alleviate the concerns that have been raised by my colleagues. I know that each of us will work with you to identify the appropriate residents associations or neighborhood councils in those areas, and to help pass out those flyers. And so I think this is critical as we face this year, probably with the amount of rain we've received, we'll have even greater brush. And that will be a big challenge for us in 2005. So I stand in support of today's item for those 4 to 10 days that are going to help us save lives and help us get those trucks up to particular areas that if a car was there, it would potentially limit your access to stop that brush. And for Sunland Tahunga, this is a very important issue. So thank you for the fire department taking a lead role, and I support it 100%.
Thank you.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was questioning, and I realize that throughout the city there are unique issues such as access. And Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista, which you're very familiar with, may not have the small streets, but certainly have fire hazards. And we had a tremendous fire in Baldwin Hills several years ago. And I'm just wondering, would that part of the city also be under this program, or is it the same type of problems, or are they in a situation where they have a unique situation because of the wider streets? They're not in the same concerns.
Yes, sir. By having the wider streets, every fire company, Baldwin Hills included, that is not primarily in what we consider our mountainous fire districts, but they will also assess that district if they find streets that are impacted. And I tell them, don't go out there with a tape measure, because I don't care about the street. Go out there with your fire truck and drive the streets. If a vehicle is parked there, then it becomes a candidate for our posting and our no parking enforcement programs. However, normally, the newer districts that have the wider streets have not been our largest problem. Their major problem right there is the brush clearance program that has been very well enforced over the last several years, and we're pretty confident with that.
Now, when you mentioned brush clearance, they would get a notice. Would they get the same type of notice in Baldwin Hills with the brush clearance about the issue of red flag and other concerns?
Yes, they would.
Okay, so they
yes,
get the
they
same
would. They would get everybody that gets the brush notice will also, even though maybe their entire street or that neighborhood may not have one street or one part of the street that applies with the no parking enforcement program, they will still be educated on the process.
Now, for Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista, is their primary fire station on Coliseum? Is that their primary facility?
Fire Station 94, yes.
94?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Verragosa.
First of all, I want to thank you for your testimony today, and I want to add my voice to Ms. Gruhl. I actually live in one of those areas, Mount Washington. I chair the committee that had the opportunity to review this new policy, and I could tell you, members, make no mistake about it, it is a public safety issue, one that we're trying to address in a way that takes into account the need for education, that takes into account the need to accommodate the residents of that area, but that first and foremost protects the public. We have roads currently that if there was a major fire, we couldn't get through them without bringing a slew of tow trucks to address the situation. And what we've come up with, and this was unanimously voted out of committee, what we've come up with is a way to address this public safety issue, to educate the public, and to do everything we can to also accommodate the residents there. And I want to thank you for the work that you did, both of you, on this issue, and I would urge your aye vote.
Mr. Reyes.
Again, I also want to thank you for your hard work, but I have some questions regarding some detail, and maybe you're not in a position to answer them now, but I'd like to put them on the table. One being that in many of the older areas, like in Mount Washington, Lincoln Heights, and Montecito Heights, we have very high densities, a lot of people living in one unit, a lot of rental units, many vehicles. The question becomes, will we be able to not only detail on this map, because I know, like where I live, there's a hairpin turn, and I sometimes see the fire truck having to do 2 or 3 tries before they make the turn completely, especially if there's a car there. My question is, would we be able to display on a map where these folks could park? Alternatives, in other words, city parking facilities maybe, or underused private parking facilities that could be candidates if we approach them, allowed us to use their parking lots, because these folks will have to park somewhere. So we know we're doing this to save their lives, save our lives, our properties, but at the same time, we should have some way of giving them an option. And I'm wondering if that's too much detail, maybe between the two gentlemen here at the table. If you can give me some feedback on that, or what's your gut feeling on being able to answer a question like that, because I'm trying to anticipate the kinds of concerns that will arise in the homeowner associations and the neighborhood councils. If you can just give me some insight, or given your experience, what might be an alternative if these folks can't park in front of their homes? And they're living up the hill, some living in very tight spots, and it's difficult to get there by foot. We just want to address that issue, if you can.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yes, one of the things that we're developing as part of this program, and it's going to be an expanded tool that will address the kind of issue you're raising, is the idea of mapping the area and having an electronic database that will actually show the location of all the signs, the parking restriction signs associated with this program, eventually expanded to show all the parking restrictions in that area, in all of these areas that are affected. So we will have a record that will indicate where the signs are supposed to be in case we want to check to see whether they're there or they've been reported missing. But it'll also indicate, through the absence of the signs or whatever, where you can park without restrictions. So it'll show ultimately a map of all the restrictions in the area. The idea of focusing on just the critical pinch points right now was the fact that, on those 4 to 10 days a year, you can park everywhere else on the street that isn't posted. So the idea is you may have to shift down the block. You won't be able to park necessarily in front of your house if in front of your house is posted on those days, but you'll have an alternative, hopefully, on the same street or on the same block. With an electronic database and mapping situation, you could also superimpose on that nearby off-street parking facilities, whether they're privately owned or publicly owned. And so that's information that could also be overlaid onto that map, too.
And this is something the neighborhood councils could engage with their local property owners that have space, maybe they want to participate. It's a way to get the community involved, to have a coordinated plan. I know at one time we worked with the fire department, we did lay out an entry point and exit point in Mount Washington to emphasize how we can get emergency vehicles up there, and that map worked out very well. And I'm glad we're approaching this on a citywide level, but perhaps this is an opportunity for the councils to engage not only the council office, but the city family in coming up with a strategy that works.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, listening to all of your comments, one thing that came clear to me is, and I hadn't thought about this before, and maybe Mr. Labange had, but maybe the rest of us hadn't. I count 11 council districts, Mr. Labange, that are affected by this proposal, that I can clearly see. And for all I know, Ms. Hahn, you might have areas that are affected by it. I doubt it. But without you and a couple of people, there's still 11 members who are affected. That shows us just how prevalent hillside areas are in the city of Los Angeles. We are an unconventional city in so many ways, and topographically, we are unconventional. This proposal will save lives in any part of this city. Could be the east side, could be the west side, could be the valley. And the reality is these will be lives saved, which we'll never be able to quantify, because we will never be able to know just how bad the situation could have been had we not gotten the cars off the street and enabled the firefighters to get to the scene more quickly. So I appreciate what everyone said, and I appreciate everybody supporting and adding to this measure, and I ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Labange.
Last question, Mr. Willis. Pretend this is like a traffic ticket. Do we have any warnings that we could, in non-hazard days, but in potential, let's say in September when we know we're going to have October in the Santa Anas, could we get some warning signs printed that we could put on windshields?
That's actually part of the plan.
Good. Oh, good. Good idea, because we want to get the word out.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It is a great city with the great diversity of not only our people, but also of our lands and the hillsides and the mountains and the great Bay of San Pedro. Thank you.
Yes, sir. On that issue, what we plan is when the brush season starts in October through January, even though it is not Red Flag Day, we will patrol those hills and put a notice on the cars letting them know that if this was in fact a Red Flag Day, where your car is parked, it would in fact be towed. Okay, and so that notification will go out all through brush season. So they will be very well aware that when the Red Flag Day, if in doubt, you call 311 and move your vehicle. We realize that we cannot, to tow 300 cars in one day, it's going to bring the system to, we know the key to making this efficient is the public education, having them comply with us. And we've had so far excellent support meeting with the homeowners groups, and we appreciate your support here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if there's no further comment from the council, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Madam Clerk, can we send item 16 forthwith, please? And I believe the items still remaining on the desk are all closed session matters, but we are prepared now with a special and important presentation today. Let me recognize Councilmember Gruhl to lead us in the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I make this presentation today or in concert with many of my colleagues, all of you, which have cared deeply about what has happened in Asia, and Councilmember Garcetti and Labange and Ms. Hahn and Mr. Villaraigosa and so many of us at this table and Council President Padilla have taken actions or expressed our condolences in a variety of ways in which we can prevent it from happening here in Los Angeles, but most importantly, to help those in need need across the ocean. And we are deeply saddened by the loss of lives resulting from the earthquake and tsunami in Asia. And we would definitely like to express our deep sympathy to all of those affected around the world, and of course here right at home. Many of us, you know, that children and families and entire nations are facing devastation that is unbelievable to us in our lifetime. What we want to do today, Mr. President and colleagues, is to have presentations from our consuls general here in Los Angeles about the effects that have occurred in their countries. As you remember, when 9/11 hit our country, people from around the world supported us and prayed for us, and now it is time for us to do the same. And whether it is your next-door neighbor in need, or across this country or across the ocean, I think our residents of Los Angeles have demonstrated their commitment, and today we hope by educating the public that we will similarly have the opportunity to encourage that kind of compassion and that kind of giving. What I'd like to do now is introduce, it's my distinct honor and pleasure, and ask them to come to the front table today, the Consul General of Indonesia, the Consul General of Thailand, the Consul General of Malaysia, and the Acting Consul General of Sri Lanka. We also, yes, thank you. We also have a representative from the Red Cross, Bob Jensen, and I appreciate everyone's patience today and thank them for us having the opportunity. Yes, and thank you, Mr. Labange, Elga Sharp from the Mayor's Office of Protocol, who has been intricately involved and supportive, and thank you for all of your assistance and the Mayor's assistance in this effort. And I know we also have Ella Stanley from Office of Emergency Services. If I could, Mr. President, ask that we have the Consul General, in this order, Consul General of Indonesia, the Consul General of Thailand, the Consul General of Malaysia, and the Consul General of Sri Lanka make a brief presentation about what has occurred in their country and the ways in which we can be of assistance. And so it's my pleasure to introduce the Consul General of Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Good morning, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to give the most up-to-date information concerning the tsunami disaster in our regions. Please, I would like to ask your permission to give very brief remarks about that matters. Honorable Council members, fellow Consul General, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to brief all of you of the latest updates in regard to the tectonic earthquake and tsunami disaster that hit several Asian countries on December 26, 2004. Thank you all for your concern and support. The province of Nangro Aceh Darussalam and parts of northern Sumatra suffered vast infrastructure damage in the wake of the disaster. The city of Molaboh suffered one of the greatest impact of the disaster, where 80% of the city was destroyed. Means of transportation, electricity, and telecommunication within the provinces were severely damaged, creating difficulties for rescue volunteers to help the remaining refugees and survivors that are still remaining in the area. Along the coastal areas of the provinces, the fishermen village were heavily damaged. During this time of grief, victims of the disaster are in need of moral and material support that their fellow men can give to them. Since the day of the disaster, all of the Indonesian embassies and consulate general all over the world have been updating their database regarding the death toll and needs of the survivors. The death toll recorded on January 3rd, 2005 was 94,801. The number of missing residents is 1,375, and the number of refugees is 271,908. The death toll number is still increasing as more areas are cleared and more bodies are found. An epidemic outbreak amongst the survivors is one of the major concerns that the government of the Republic of Indonesia is currently facing. During this time all morning, we have received generous contribution from the Indonesian citizens and our friends from other nations. Several Los Angeles-based humanitarian organizations and Angelenos are also doing their best to support the local rescue effort. We are grateful to have compassionate friends in our time of great need. The Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Los Angeles and Indonesian community within the greater Los Angeles area have also formed a task force to coordinate humanitarian help given from Southern California and the states of Nevada, Hawaii, Colorado, Arizona, Montana, Wyoming, and Utah. Due to the cost and timelessness issue of the delivery of material support, financial support would be a more effective tool to help the victims. On December 29, 2004, we have opened an account in Bank of America to accommodate the incoming financial support. The account that was set for the relief is called Indonesian Consulate General Earthquake Fund, account number 03475132201. The government of the Republic of Indonesia will also host a tsunami summit meeting, which will be held tomorrow, the January 6, 2005. Among the dignitaries that will be present are Australian Prime Minister John Howard, Japanese Prime Minister Yujiniro Koizumi, United States Secretary of State Colin Powell, and Florida Governor Jeb Bush, the brother of the President George W. Bush. We would like also express our gratitude to the government of the United States for giving a $350 million pledge in support of the disaster victims. We hope that the generous help that's been given will continue as we are planning to rebuild the infrastructure of the demolished provinces. It is our dreams that the cities that have perished be rebuilt. I would like to close my brief remark by saying that there is still hope for the survivor of the disaster. The support of everyone who is helping us is one of the reasons why the hope of a recovery is still alive. We would like to thank many nations and international humanitarian organizations that have expressed sympathy and give moral and material support during these times of need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Council General. Council General Isinton.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Isinton. I'm the Consul General of Thailand. First of all, I would like to extend on behalf of the government and the people of Thailand, I would like to extend our sincere thanks for the concern, sympathy, and condolences extended to our people, our government, including our royal family who lost a member of the royal family in this tragedy. Well, for the part of Thailand, I would like to say that now, despite the tsunami destroy everything, including life, houses, and everything, and especially the most severe area that devastated by the tidal wave is the Phuket Island and Phi Phi Island. That is one of the most beautiful places in Thailand, or one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's a kind of paradise of the mankind. But we try our hard to manage to do everything, and I would say that everything is under control already. We try to stop the disease, the communicable disease. Except one thing that we still trying is to find the missing person. We still have about 5,000 missing person. We have the operation team to operate 24 hours since on the 26th of this month, last month. And I would like to say that for the dead body, since in Thailand, Phuket, Phang and PP Island, there were a lot of tourists, including our American citizen. We would like to say that our government, our people, tried their best to manage everything, especially the dead body. Some news reported that we bury or we burn the dead body, especially for the foreigner. I would like to say that it's not true. We cannot do anything without the permission of the family or the concession of the foreign embassies. So we keep the foreign tourist dead body in the suitable place, and we especially we put in the in the big freezer container that we can control the temperature. And of course, we welcome the assistance from our friends, our friends around the world. But I would like to say that the assistance, we would like to suggest that the assistance that going to help our victim should be met with the need. I would like to say that we try to help ourselves as much as possible. But one thing that we still need the assistance from our friends is the some equipment and technical cooperation, especially the immediate need for the equipment is the kind of forensic expert or the DNA expert that can help our forensic team to identify the dead body, because we expect to have 5,000 or 6,000 more dead body, and our forensic team, they do for the around the clock since 26, so they are all exhausted. And also some medicines like antibiotic, antiseptic, or the first aid kit. The power generator is one of the things that we also need, because most of the houses of the fishermen who live along the coastline, it is so long, like let's say from San Diego up to almost San Francisco. Is a long coastline area that were destroyed from the tidal wave, and all of the houses were gone. And another thing is the metal coffin. Of course, in Thailand we don't use the metal coffin. We would like to prepare the metal, the coffin, the special coffin for the Western people use to transport the dead body back to their home, to their country. These are the things that we would like to receive if our friends would like to help us. And there is something that the best way for the long run, helping our people, the victim, the best way is that please go back and return to visit our country. Otherwise, our people who live in that area will more suffer. From now on, we try very hard among the ASEAN countries to set up the early warning system for the tsunami, because so far we didn't have it because in this area we never have such a kind of tidal wave. That is why we didn't give much enough attention. But now we'll have the lesson learned from this time. It's a great lesson for us. And I think tomorrow we will have the summit meeting among the head of state among the Southeast Asian country, including our friends, United States, Japan, and Australia will also join us in this meeting. So I would like to extend our sincere thanks to the City of Los Angeles, the council members, especially Gruel and Mr. Council Member Tom LaBonge, and also other members who kindly help us to campaign for the assistance, especially for the time of sadness. And also my sincere thanks to the American Red Cross and international organization, the NGOs, American Friends, who expressed their concern and condolences to our people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next are the Consul General of Malaysia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, council members, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would say that I'm proud with the residents of LA and American in general that have been spontaneously respond to the needs and concern about the disaster in Southeast Asia. I received a lot of letters, email, checks from the resident of Los Angeles. I think you can be proud of the resident of Los Angeles. As the situation in Malaysia, we are quite fortunate that we have been shielded by Sumatra, and the only part of Malaysia that have been affected is the northern part, 3 states. And as to date, the total count of fatalities is 66 and 5,000 displaced. And I would like to inform that no foreign national is involved in Malaysia. As of now, we have set 2 funds. One fund is meant for the Malaysian, and the other fund organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is to the neighboring countries. So people in Malaysia, as in Los Angeles, have been very generous, and we are very thankful. And through the chair, I would like to say something that I've reflected last night when I was, I got this message to come and present to capture the whole situation, since last week. It says, give them hope and a little bit more. It says that tears, despair, prayers, faith are the only emotion left. Within minutes, nature, the great equalizer, changed the life of millions of people across this region. No one had a clue that life would be altered forever. Children frolicked on beach, parents doubtingly watch. Holidaymakers bash in the sun. Fishermen scours the seas for their daily bread. The trains wound their way along scenic coast. It was Sunday, a day of rest. But tens of thousands, it was a day they died. The tsunami swallowed the children and the parents, the holiday makers, the train passengers, the fishermen and their boats, and even the town people secure in the inland dwelling. Then it spat them out. By the time nature had finished, more than 100,000 lives were lost, and the death toll continued to rise. For some, there are no more tears left. The family are dead, home destroyed. What is their future? Some just wish that they too had died. No amount of money will bring back their life they knew before December 26. But hope has to be given. The compassion and philanthropy shown by people around the world will help a little. Prayer and faith. This may be the only thing left for them. What more can be said? So much has been written, so much has been shown on television, so many images which fill heart with pain and anguish. These images depict the tears, anguish, and the prayer and hope for those who survive. Thank you for giving. Every bit count. Only God Almighty can repay your kind deed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Consul General of Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, President and Council members of the City Council. Actually, I thank all of you on behalf of the Sri Lankan government for your assistance for our people. Actually, as you are aware, Sri Lanka is a country, it's a beautiful island. Actually, annually we have 500,000 tourists to Sri Lanka. Actually, we have very good coastal lines and same times the good mountains there. But because of this tragedy, actually we in our country we have more than 30,000 people died. So around 200 tourist foreign nationals died because of this thing. Actually, some Sri Lankan 220,000 families have been affected because of this tragedy. Same times with they have lost all their houses, their items, and they have lost everything of these families. Actually, we have most affected the tourist attractive cities have been affected this kind of this devastation. And same time that now our people now they are living in the camps, refugee camps, because of this this situation. Now we have in Sri Lanka we have now around 800 camps for people. Actually, we seek your City Council assistance, as a continued assistance for in short term and long term to assist our people to come to the normal life. Then I appeal to you, the City Council and the Council members, to assist us to bring our country to a normal situation. Thank you very much.
Please, would you say a few words, and then we'll go to the Red Cross from the Mayor's office.
On behalf of Mayor Han, we like to extend our gratitude that you made the time to come here today, and our condolences to all the countrymen. And we are here to help you as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Clark Johnson with the American Red Cross. For years, the Red Cross has worked with residents in Southern California to help prepare and respond to the disasters here in Southern California: earthquakes, wildfires, mudslides. When events take place on the other side of the globe, the Red Cross is also here for residents of Southern California to reach out and help. To date, the American Red Cross has received pledges for $103 million from the American public. 69 million of that has been received in cash. The Red Cross is working with the International Committee for the Red Cross and the Red Cross societies in each of these nations to do three things. We're sending a team of individuals, specialized disaster responders, to set up water purification, food distribution, and family mental health and physical health. We're also sending disaster response supply kits, hygiene kits, and family shelter kits. And for the long term, we're working with the mental health and with family linkages to reconnect families all over the world with missing relatives in the affected countries. For residents of Southern California who want to help, we ask that you do three things. We ask that you give your time, take a preparedness class, first aid, CPR, and volunteer for your local Red Cross. We ask that you give your blood. Right now, there's a nationwide critical blood supply shortage in the United States, particularly after the holiday seasons. And we also ask that you give your money. To make a donation to the Red Cross, you can look at our website, redcross.org. You can call 1-800-HELP-NOW, or in Spanish, 1-800-257-7575. I appreciate all of the time that you've allotted us this morning, and I appreciate the response of residents in Southern California, both locally, but also to those that are affected a world away.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, I know that many of my colleagues, I'm sure, would like to speak as well. This is an effort by all of us, and I thank again our consuls general as well as the mayor's office for their assistance this morning and willingness to come at short notice to be here to help us. So I just want to thank you, and we look forward as a city to help you in the days and months and probably years to come.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Wendy and Eric. I know I was on the phone with your office on last Monday afternoon, I think a week ago, and Elga, thank you and for your help in coordinating all the consulates. Members, you know, when we talk, why is Los Angeles involved? 42% of all people who live in our city are born outside this great country. And look at the faces here at this table. Those are the faces of the neighborhood of Los Angeles. And that's what's so special. And of all cities in the world, we're third, next to New York and Hong Kong as far as consulates, where other governments say they need a representative in our city. And now it's the time for us to stand, as we have. And the generous donations of people in Southern California, that doesn't count the national, and I just want to mention her name, Sandra Bullock, who stepped up with $1 million for that. That's an outstanding individual who did that, but now there's hundreds of thousands of individuals from $5 to $500 and more, which is so important. I know my daughter Mary Catherine, who was so touched by this, wants to get a little program for Kids of LA Care when school's back in session next week and work with the Red Cross, because that's the most important thing, to try to get money so that they could get to the needed services of the community. And I asked myself, I said, why are we reacting so much better now at this time? And as the world has changed so drastically, because of the horrible event in Bangladesh almost 35 years ago, was it 35 years ago? And I know when the late great Beatle George Harrison had his concert for Bangladesh, because over 100,000 people were lost. But since that time, how this world has gotten smaller because of those cameras, which bring those images into the homes of people throughout the world, that we're now able to react. And I think even this is a horrible disaster of such great magnitude that is historic. It will also cause us, not just in this city, but in cities and towns throughout this country and in places throughout this world, to come closer to help out those who were so unsuspectedly harmed by such a magnitude of nature. I want to thank all the consulates for their help there. Several of my colleagues introduced motions to discuss this issue, and further that we'll be there. Los Angeles will always be there for you. And I also want to thank the Red Cross, because tonight, I know we had the fire chief here, Early Manning, the assistant chief. Tonight, if there's a disaster in the city of Los Angeles, it's not one of us who goes out there after the fire department puts the fire out. To help those displaced people, it's the American Red Cross who are there 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. So the Red Cross and the International Relief Fund is so important. So I want to thank absolutely all. There's more work to do every day now for the next several months and years as we continue to look at the magnitude of this historic event that has affected so many people and so many people that we're related to. Again, Ms. Gruhl, thank you for your efforts and your staff's efforts, and Eric, your staff's efforts as well, and all of your staffs who've helped throughout, but also want to thank the Mayor's office for their help and always the Red Cross. Council Generals, thank you for your help.
Mr. Garcetti.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you to the Consuls General for your presence here and the work of your countries. And certainly, as Mr. Labange said, Your countries have always been there in times of need for us, and it's the least that we can do to return that favor. I just have a practical matter, if we can include as a direction, and I know we talked about it yesterday, but a direction if this goes forthwith, to which I would ask to instruct the Information Technology Agency to actually get a link up, if we can, today, and a page with some of this information that we've been gathering today. I know I spoke about that informally, but I think if we get that, then folks by the end of today who are watching or watching this evening on the replay can log on to the lacity.org website, and we'll have links to some of the local connections as well as some of the international work that can be done. But thank you, and we'll continue to work.
And just for formality, I know that's a requested instruction. We don't have a formal action item before us. This is just a presentation, but I'm sure the department's happy to comply. Consul General, you wanted to add something before I call on the next speaker?
Well, thank you so much. I would like to speak on behalf of our colleague from Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, to extend our sincere thanks to our the council member, especially council member Gruel, Tom Labonge, Electricity, and all the council member here, especially the president, and also the office of the mayor, to help try to help us in such a time of sadness. And this is the things that I will also inform our government and our people in our country, that we have a lot of friends here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Perry.
Yesterday, the lady who spoke on behalf of the Thai community, I believe, from Mr. Garcetti's district, mentioned that at this point it would be more effective to send monetary donations. From the calls that I've received and emails and whatnot, and I'm also particularly interested in when we might reach a point where in-kind donations would be appropriate, and in particular medical supplies, and specifically antibiotics, if we can contact businesses in our districts to provide support that way, if they so choose, instead of money. When would that be, at what point would we be, that we would know that would be effective and easy to deploy in the field? And I don't know who wants to answer that. Maybe the Red Cross, maybe, I'm not sure.
I can at least lend some perspective to this. The reason that you're hearing quite a bit of request for dollars is for a couple of reasons. One is that there are not logistical issues of moving dollars as there are supplies. There are also companies and organizations within each of the affected countries that can take those dollars that can be wire transferred and can immediately put that into action on the ground, as opposed to waiting for logistical supply chains and so forth to move the funds, or excuse me, to move the in-kind donations over.
So then if the money is received and then spent in the country that has received the money, does that imply that the supplies may actually be there within a reasonable geographic distance, or?
Yes, in fact, there are warehouses in the area outside the affected countries that are being utilized to move supplies into those countries. The other thing that donations do is allow the local economies to begin providing assistance, so that the dollars can actually drive the local economies as opposed to outside assistance in terms of in-kind donations.
So it sounds like until a certain infrastructure goes back online, it's probably the most efficient way to continue sending money, and not in-kind or donations of some other sort. Am I correct in that?
I would say that is a correct assumption. There are needs locally in Los Angeles for in-kind donations every day, and there are mechanisms to provide those to Los Angeles County and the city. So for individuals interested in providing in-kind donations, I would ask that they contribute those locally and consider international relief either through financial means or some other mechanism.
Okay.
Ms. Han.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilman Gruel and Garcetti and Labonge, for this opportunity for us to hear from our council generals personally the devastating loss that the people in your country have suffered. And I am always so proud of Los Angeles on so many areas, but I'm so proud of us right now. I know the mayor and Elga have been working tirelessly to make sure that we can coordinate our response to your country's needs. And as we sat here, Tom LaBonge, he's probably on the phone right now, and if a reporter wants to criticize him for not paying attention, it's because he was earlier on the phone to County Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky asking if the county's forensic team might be able to be dispatched and help in that effort. And I know he's calling the Cardinal right now to see if Catholic Charities might get involved. You know, there were so many losses and so many family members, as you've talked about, but sometimes a certain person or face does make it in the news, and to the Consul General of Thailand, we certainly were saddened at the loss of the young prince, and we ask that you would give our condolences to the King on the loss of his son. And you should know that the City Council adjourned our meeting yesterday in the memory of all those names who we will never know. And as you said, the toll is rising daily, but we adjourned our council member. We all stood in silence and thought of those who have lost their lives. I know specifically from Thailand, you've said that there was a need for metal caskets, and I know for myself, I have a casket distribution center in my council district. I will be calling them and seeing if this might be something they would be willing to offer. I know Councilwoman Gruhl has suggested maybe Forest Lawn. This might be something that they might be willing to participate in. I represent the Port of Los Angeles, so a lot of the equipment that we're thinking about possibly shipping over there, I will be in touch with maybe some of our shipping companies to see whether or not they would make room on one of the next carriers going overseas. So we are happy to respond, and we hope the lives have not been lost in vain. And as many of you have said, if only there was a warning, if only there was even a few minutes of a warning, so many of those, not all of them, but so many of them might have had the opportunity to not only save their own life, but certainly those who were around them, their family members. I again represent the sea area of Los Angeles, and I'm going to institute a task force that will look for here in Southern California the possibility of an early warning system if in fact there was an earthquake in the ocean and a subsequent tsunami. The possibility is remote, but as you said, it never happened before. It may never happen again. But even though it's remote, the devastation is so incredibly huge that I think it's worth all of us looking at the investment of some sort of early warning system that may save thousands of lives in the future. So thank you, and know that our hearts and our prayers are continually with you and all of the people in your country.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I also rise to express my deep sorrow for all the grief that is now being experienced by Southeast Asia and all the Pacific Islanders who have been affected by this. Many of my questions have been asked by Councilman Perry, but I do know that this morning one of my staff members shared with me that the Family Associations of Chinatown will be getting together, and they'll be putting together a press conference, and they want to put together resources. So I'm glad you're here today so that we can figure out a way to best deliver that type of support in the most effective fashion. But on another note that I heard today on the news this morning was the issue of children, and maybe the Red Cross can address this. My understanding is that many of the children who have been left as orphans are now being subjected to trade, and no one knows exactly how we're going to treat the children who have been left without parents, without family. Is there any strategy, is there any thought to how we're dealing with our children that are being left without family?
Well, for the case of the survivor after the 26, everything happened. It's like everybody tried to help the victims, and some of the children were sent, the survivor were sent to the hospital. There is one case that after that child, I think he is a Swedish boy, after we take care of him and he can leave the hospital already, there was a case that there was one tourist, I would say, white tourist came to the hospital and claimed that this boy is his relative or family. But in the time of the panic or everything, the nurse allow that boy to go with that person. So we didn't expect that this kind of things will happen, but we try very hard to track, to follow this man, you know, and we have the measure. Our Prime Minister ordered all the hospital and every organization concerned to take good care of this kind of things. And we also, we don't want to, because the people already suffer from this kind of things, but we don't want to be more suffer from the abuse of the people.
Yes, and my question, I don't mean to be insensitive, I just wanted to raise it so that those children advocacy groups from other countries who are trying to find a way to help, maybe that's one of the priorities we can set. Because just my own personal is...
Yeah, I hope that now we have the close cooperation between our foreign ministry in Thailand and the foreign embassies. We set up the mobile team to work very closely with the foreign embassy in Thailand in the affected area and try to identify the person, the people, their subject. We've tried our best to take good care of them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I also answer your question? I mean, in the case of my country, of course, Indonesia is the most maybe severe country hit by the tsunami disaster. And so many children also, now they need help. That's why that my president has already instructed to all of the cabinet members to take care the children who need help as soon as they can take care. But of course, we still need many people also to help so many children who need help from people who, what I mean, but we need make sure that the people who would like to take care of the children, not only they can be responsible, but make sure that they are, for example, rich enough also to take care of them, because we don't want to have another problem and to make another burden for the people. Maybe they have, what I mean, they intend to take care, but maybe they are not sufficient enough also to take care of them. And also I have received also some letters from what I mean Los Angeles people who would like to take care of them. And now we are still make coordination with our government in Jakarta how to handle this matter. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. If I may add that during the meeting of my Prime Minister and the President of Indonesia 2 days ago, talking about, you are right in raising the issue of children, and the total count now is about 35,000 orphanage, and in the discussion of the two leaders, they are talking about setting up an institution to guide these children go through the high school and colleges. I think that is taken care, and think a lot of effort need to be to be done in that regard. And also another issue of psychological effect, on people, be it children and others, is so dramatic. Then even that, people who are living around the coastal area, they are really traumatized, and a false rumor could, create alarm, Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, our case, actually my country's case, actually that day was Sunday. That it happened around 9 o'clock in the morning. Children, some of the children were in the Sunday schools and same time at the temples that day because it was a religious day also. That case, I know some people, some children, they have lost their entire family. Now it's actually from ages less than 10. I know they no family at all. That situation actually, that now we have open many orphanages there for those kind of children. Actually, I cannot say how to. Then this is a big issue for them. I don't know how to face those difficulties in the future. For those kind of children, we need to assist them for that kind of children if you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to acknowledge my colleagues, Councilmember Wendy Gruhl, Eric Garcetti, Tom Labange, and the others that have been involved in this from the get-go. The concern about equipment, I know that Councilmember Labange had a motion, I don't know if you're aware of it, that we survey all the city equipment and find out what equipment that's going to be sold, we can donate, and it can be shipped to the different countries to help with the infrastructure rebuilding. Watch the news reports, it's horrifying. In my lifetime, I've never seen devastation this magnitude. I've received pictures over the internet that are frightening. It's not, you can't comprehend, and the people who are living in those conditions, that some now have to rebuild, some now have to get their lives back on track, have to find their loved ones, and we've seen the tragic scenes over and over and over. And I hear different reports that they have an abundance of clothing, that what they need to do is coordinate, that they don't have enough space where the goods are coming in. I know the military's there, the president has sent aircraft and helicopters and distributing to some of the remote areas. The number one issue, as I understand from all the countries represented, is that you need money, you need cash, so they can make purchases. I know the equipment's important, and maybe some of our neighboring cities, I know this is not only in the United States, but around the world, Japan, Australia, all these other countries that are contributing, donating, to have those items. After September 11th in New York City, this country has the resources to rebuild. They did rebuild. Fire department was rebuilt. Fire trucks were reestablished. We're talking about an entire infrastructure. We're talking about the sanitation. We're talking about the water. We're talking about homes, schools, churches, restaurants, everything imaginable. So everything's needed. But the number one issue that they need, as I understand now, is money, so they can make the purchases. If you could respond to that. And also the scams, and there's always someone who's going to take advantage when a tragedy occurs. As I heard, along with Councilman Reyes this morning, taking children who are now orphan and turn them into slaves or whatever they want to do that's illegal, and the orphanages that are going to have to be established. But if you can comment on the issue of the overabundance of items that you have more than you need, and how we can coordinate and decipher which organizations, I know Catholic Charities involved, the Red Cross involved, there'll be, I'm sure, phone solicitations to donate dollars, and then the scam artists come in and try and utilize that money for an illegal purpose. Can you please comment on that? I know the Red Cross has a reputable reputation, and then people say, I want to earmark this for the countries that are affected. Will the Red Cross earmark for a specific country, for a specific purpose, or does it go into the rebuilding or the healthcare or the medicine? If you can please comment on that. I know that my representation in San Fernando Valley, a lot of generous people out there who are writing checks. We have a lot of churches out there that are getting involved. But we want to make sure that we give you what you need. You folks know best of what it's going to take to put things back together, which is going to take years to bring about. So if we can go down the line and respond to those, please. And our condolences to the many thousands and thousands of victims that have suffered this tragedy and their families.
To address your issue of donor designation, as we call it, the Red Cross does adhere to donor designation, which says that if I write a check for a specific purpose, in this case tsunami disaster relief effort for any given country or for the international fund, that money is to be restricted and used only for that purpose. And that's the guidelines by which the Red Cross operates. So that money does not go into any other fund. It's not used for general purpose. It's not used for the administration of other programs and services. It's directed specifically for that and is accounted for in that way.
Thank you very much. I would like also to add maybe some comments for your responses. First of all, as I stated before in my statement, that of course we need the money, but we cannot also refuse the people who will give us donation in kind. The problem is that if the donation will be given in kind, and then we have to think how to send them. But as you gave a comment also, Pasca, the tsunami disaster, says that infrastructure in Nangro Aceh Darussalam and north of Sumatra are badly damaged because the telecommunications is cut, and then electricity is cut, and then so many trees also fell down. So we need also, I think, Pasca, the disaster is like city planners, something like this. And then, of course, civil engineering to help us to rebuild, so many houses that gone because of the disaster. And also, of course, the transportation, because so many also transportation gone because of the tsunami. That's maybe my comment. Thank you very much.
I would like to add my colleague regarding the assistance. Of course, in terms of the money, we try our best to help ourselves, our people. But as I mentioned, that some equipments that we urgently need, like a medicine or antibiotic, antiseptic, and so on. We received the cooperation from the Thai Airways International that if there is the kind of donation that can send directly to, of course they can send to the American Red Cross, but some of them they would like to send directly to our relief center in Thailand. We can, at the Thai consulate here, we can accommodate, we can cooperate with them. And for the urgent equipment, we can ask Thai Airways to transport them directly to Phuket or to the small cities around Phuket area. Thank you.
I have one more question that you brought up about planners, engineers. Many people who've retired, if people want to volunteer and go over there and help, are arrangements made for them to do that? Retired engineers, retired architects, retired planners. There's a lot of people who've retired who want to do something good in addition to writing a check. How would someone arrange for that if they wanted to go over there and help with the rebuilding process?
Okay, maybe we can discuss in more detail about that matter, because I have also to make a coordination with my capital in Jakarta, how to for example, to arrange this such kind of assistance about that. Because we receive the news from Jakarta about the need about that, but how to arrange this assistance and how to send them and so on. This is for technical reasons. Maybe we have make a discussion in a little bit more detail, something like this.
Mr. Zan, I think a good
thank
idea.
you very much for your gesture.
I think a good idea would be to have whoever is interested contact the consul offices directly.
The council officers of the specific.
Yes.
And if we could also I'm sorry, if we could also get the camera to pan down on the number for the viewers at home. We've got the board in front with the phone number, English and Spanish.
for the Red Cross, and they've been announced.
If they can show that also.
Okay.
Get a close-up of that for our viewers. Thank you.
We recognize Mr. Villaraigosa to be followed by Mr. Labange.
Hello. Could I?
Sure.
With regard to the professional, I receive a lot of call actually from the American public, right from Seattle to New Mexico, volunteering, and it's quite difficult for me to advise probably, 5 or 10, to be sent to Asia, for wherever, whether Thailand or Sri Lanka, Indonesia, it's quite difficult for us to organize some sort of on an individual basis, or probably someone could, or some organization could, group together, and I think that is more meaningful. And with regard to sending of assistance in kind too, it's very difficult for me to, to organize, let's say 4 or 5 boxes, So some organization have to coordinate, and so that is economical and is more, we can divert the resources to relevant countries that are much needed. Thank you.
Mr. Villaraigosa?
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, our case, Sri Lanka, we have a very small airport. Actually, we have many airlines have requested to land there. Actually, we have many. Actually, for the airlines, we don't have enough parking also. Our seaport also not so big. We have only one international airport and one international seaport. Then in that case, actually, we seek the possibility only sending financial contribution this time, because most of the items are being held in the other cities in the region, other countries. In that case, we seek the possibility this time only the financial donations. Same time for the actually for the volunteers, we arrange our consulate. We arrange the people to go there. Not only the engineers, we need the doctors. We arrange those kind of things because actually, with regard to constructions in the down south, all the coastal roads, coastal infrastructure, including roads and railways, completely devastated. In that case, we need help to send the people actually this time. Actually, government is making the plans to rebuild all those cities. We need the assistance. We can arrange to a Minister of Foreign Affairs, Colombo. We work with some people and some organizations also here. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Villaraigosa.
First of all, I want to thank the Council Generals who are here with us today, all of us who are hearing and watching as you share the incredible devastation that has occurred in your countries as we watched the news day in and day out. Mr. Labange said a couple of things that I think ring true and deserve to be mentioned again. When your own children, as mine have as well, speak to you every day, Dad, we have to do something. We can't just let these people suffer this way without speaking out and doing something concrete to reach across the world. And secondly, if not us, who? Mr. Labange said that very well. This is the city of America's hope and its dream, its future. It's the city where we come from every corner of the earth. Many of the people who live in your countries have come here as well. And my hope, and although I thank you for acknowledging the generosity of this country, the truth is, as generous as that giving has been, we could do more. $350 million for a country as rich and powerful as this one is not enough. Our city should lead the way. And after hearing my colleagues today, it's clear to me that there's a commitment on the part of this city to be a city that leads the way, that is the guiding light for the nation. when the Democratic Republic of Germany and Britain are giving more money than us, there's a problem here. We have to step up. We saw that we did after we were criticized by a United Nations official, and I'm hoping that as a result of today's discussion, conversation, this debate and conversation in our own country, to step forward and do all of the things that I've heard a number of us, if we as council members can call employers and hospitals and ask them to participate, imagine what the federal government could do as well. And so I thank you for coming here. Our hearts are with you and your countries as you try to recover from this incredible devastation that none of us have ever seen in our lifetimes. We stand with you, and we look forward to continuing to work to lead the way here in Los Angeles for our nation and the world. Thank you so much.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, and I just wanted to thank everybody. The nice thing about all of the discussion here, an idea that I kind of kicked around, and Mr. Zine, you just hit on one thing about the volunteer. Some of the greatest municipal employees of the world work in our city. And an idea that I want to share, because it's not today or tomorrow, but it may be next spring and next summer or next fall, that engineers from Water and Power may be able to go there, or retired engineers, and help out, like Laval Lund, who you all know, who does a wonderful job. So this is the importance. And Wendy, thank you for calling us off, Mr. Jensen, all of you. A lot of good ideas come from this, but we've got to remember it's not today and it's tomorrow, next week, but it's for a long time to help a great people of a great part of the world from this tragedy that, as I said, was a historic monument. We have made some phone calls during this discussion. I'll report to you on the side to give you an update on some ideas we could help out. And again, I want to thank American Red Cross and also you, Elga, from the Consular Corps. And Luis Kreckler tried to be here, the Dean of the Consular Corps from Argentina, to offer his support. As you know, all the consulates are engaged as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Gruhl to close.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I think as Janice said earlier, so proud of our family today, our city family. And we also believe, and Tom has reminded us all the time about the consuls general are part of our family as well. And we're here today to say we support you. We hope that you will continue to keep us in the loop on other items. Again, we heard today about the need for caskets, and we sat here a little bit as chatting as we're listening to you on different things that each of you would need as we move forward, and can share with us the information about specific funds that are also in need of assistance that we can publicize as well for your individual countries. So I just want to say thank you to all my colleagues. I know this was a lengthy discussion today, but one in which I know we all felt very personal about today. So thank you all for being here, and know that we are side by side with you as you go through this tragedy and the rebuilding of your countries. So thank you, and again, Elga, thank you for all of your assistance in the Mayor's office. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. And again, thank you all. I would look forward to continuing to work with you. Members, this will conclude this presentation. And let's give it a few seconds before we proceed to the next item. Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Let's do housekeeping, and then I believe we have one motion for reconsideration of an item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Smith requests to be excused Friday, January 28th, to leave at 11 a.m. for city business that meets council policy.
Mr. Smith is excused.
Councilmember Rice requests to be excused Wednesday, January 12th for personal business. A motion is required.
Ms. Perry moves that excuse is granted.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused the first Friday of each month for city business, and that is to attend the AQMD meetings, and those all meet council policy.
Okay. Ms. Perry is excused.
Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused Tuesday, January 11th for city business that meets council policy.
Ms. Hahn is excused.
And Councilmember Villaraigosa requests to be excused Friday, January 7th to arrive at 11 a.m. for city business that meets council policy.
That excuse is granted.
And that clears the desk for closed session and the reconsideration.
Okay. Let me recognize Councilmember Labange.
President, I ask we reconsider item number 29, 28 and 29. Do we do
28 and 29?
29, which one? 28 and 29, please.
Okay. Members, is there any objection to reconsideration? Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
Mr. President, members, I want to apologize. I was out of the room earlier in the day with our guest discussing issues, and I wasn't able to, in the proper time, call these items special. We have persons down who have concerns about both these issues, and I'd appreciate if we could give them the proper accord. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, unless there's an objection to reopening the public hearing is now reopened. Mr. LeBlanc, do you want to give us a time frame? This has had a public hearing in committee, so we're now reopening the public hearing. That's just so everybody understands.
I think no more than 10 minutes, Mr. President. on
Total?
both items.
So 5 minutes on each side?
Yeah.
Okay, if we can put up a 5-minute clock, please. And I'll, Mr. City Attorney?
Okay. And just a reminder, council, this is a quasi-judicial hearing subject to due process requirements.
That means listen up, folks. All right, we have a 5-minute clock that's up. I'm going to read through a list of speaker cards that have been submitted either against the proposal or under general comments. We'll get through as many as we can in that 5-minute period. We'll then turn to the speaker cards that have been submitted for the proposal and get through as many of those in that 5-minute period as well. So for those of you who take up a lot of time at the microphone, that means less people who agree with you are going to get a chance to speak. So your brevity will be much appreciated. And again, as a reminder, this is yet another public hearing of this item. Public hearing has been held in committee. Before the hearing, Mr. Reyes?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to put this case into context. We did hear this in Plum. It's a Rocky's Cafe restaurant. It had come to council before a few years back. It was very clear to us then that the local community, the people that live on that block, around that establishment had been suffering some great imposition. We did give them conditions. We did give them time to work it out, to demonstrate that they can be a good neighbor. And now it's come back to committee. We went through our process, went through the hearings, and as a result, we essentially asserted what you see today in the report, which is to close down the establishment for its current use as a restaurant bar and to allow relief for the community to prevail. And that would be the context of this particular hearing.
Mr. Weiss, before the public hearing?
Yeah, and I just want to concur in what the chair of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee said. Colleagues, just so you know, Mr. Reyes runs a very impressive committee meeting every week in the Planning Committee. And in these cases such as this come before the committee all the time. And every single person who wants to speak has an opportunity to speak, has an opportunity to be heard. They are all heard, and council members on the committee frequently ask questions of the people who make public comment, refer to the staff issues that are raised by people in public comment. That's the sort of thing that happened here. I remember this case very well. I listened to it, engaged with the people who were there in committee. We have a committee system that does function when it comes to planning, thanks in large measure to Mr. Reyes. And I would ask that you affirm the vote that we took in the Planning Committee, which I think was the right vote for this community.
Okay, well, let's now hear from the community, beginning with, is it Steve Zadrati? Can't read that very well. Followed by Steve Patrick, Nancy Wilkerson, and Alan Lamb. If you'd form a line behind the podium, that would expedite our hearing as well.
I'm obviously not Steve. He was here. He had to leave to go to work to get a magazine to press. I have a letter to submit on his behalf.
Okay, I'll ask the sergeant to receive that. We'll go to the next Steve Patrick. And again, if the following would form a line behind the podium, that expedite our hearing here. Nancy Wilkerson, Alan Lamb, Carmen Michelli.
Hello, Council. Thank you for taking the time to hear us today.
I'm here on behalf of the Patrick family and Rockies. My father, Robert, went back into the hospital December 26th and couldn't make it today. But I want you to know Rockies has made every effort to meet every reasonable condition. And we continue to make those efforts today. There are hundreds of names of residents and businesses that have signed a petition within the 500-foot radius of Rockies that reads, on December 18th, 2002, the City of Los Angeles imposed conditions of operation on Rockies, located at 4141 North Lankershim Boulevard. Those conditions restricted the hours of operation, limited seating, and prohibited use of the outside patio. For the last 18 months, Rockies has operated in a reasonable manner. Therefore, we, the patrons and the neighbors of Rockies, support allowing the hours of operation until 2 a.m., use of the outside patio, and an increase in the number of customers allowed. This is a map of the 500-foot radius area, along with all the names that have signed it. And I would like to present this to Mr. LaBonge, if I could. The council was presented additional petitions from Rockies with literally thousands of signatures of support. In addition, approximately 100 letters of support from neighbors and businesses in the area, with 9 letters of support coming from residents on Aqua Vista Street. We feel they have been ignored or not acknowledged, but the few neighbors against the restaurant have been given the majority of the attention and credibility. I'd like to read a couple short letters if I could.
You're more than happy to hear from you, but there's a long line of people behind you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Councilman, Mr. President, Mr. LaBonge. My name is Nancy Wilkerson. I've been a longtime resident and a longtime patron of Rockies. I would like to express my support. I will submit my comments in writing. Mr. LaBonge, in September, I attended your open house and I extended you my business card and invited you to lunch to actually, for firsthand, come to Rockies, visit the patrons, visit the clientele. I re-extend that invitation to you and hope that you will accept it. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President, City Council members. I'm a neighbor in the area, and I've received all of the notices when these particular situations came up. I'm going to be brief. I can see I don't have much time. I have frequented Rockies for over 15 years, and it's never been what it's been identified as a biker's bar or a place where prostitutes hang out or where drug deals are made. It's always been a community place for people to get together with their family and friends. And since this has come about, most of their clientele has been, because of closing the patio, they've lost probably 2/3 of the business that Rockies presently has. And what has happened is a great deal of exaggeration has been put, since this has become a focus of attention, that people are blaming everything in that neighborhood on this establishment, which is not true. And they're usually greatly exaggerated. And I'll submit more things in writing after this because of the short time limit. Thank you very much.
Okay. I have Carmen Michelli, Sean Fornari, Joshua Kaplan.
My name is Carmen Michelli. Been a resident of Toluca Lake for 50 years. I've been patronizing this restaurant for 35, 40 years. I can't understand really what this is all about. I hear so much controversy as to how bad this place is. Well, if it's that bad, then I don't know what I'm talking about. Because after 55 years of the restaurant business, I should know. And I do. And all these accusations, as far as I'm concerned, are frivolous. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. President, Councilman. I'm a high school teacher, Sean Fornari.
I frequent Rockies for the past 6 years, and if it was a biker bar, I would not be there. I value education. I value our youth. This Rockies has sponsored a Little League team. They're in there. I see them all the time in the afternoon with the parents, celebrating, and they actually won their first championship game last year. Guys, Rockies is a family restaurant, and everything, yes, that Mr. Michelli said, it is frivolous, all these accusations. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Rector. I am the councilman-elect for the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council and look forward to working with Councilman Labange in the coming year. I'm also a homeowner for the past 9 years on Aqua Vista Street, where the bar known as Rockies is located. I originally signed a letter in favor of keeping Rockies patio open for business. That patio has since been closed due to several building code violations. I have since changed my position and can no longer support the establishment due to the declining conditions surrounding the operation of the bar. A great American once said, a true compromise is reached when both parties walk away unhappy. The compromise in this case was in the form of a set of conditions, 24 in all, imposed by the City of Los Angeles Zoning Committee to continue the operation of Rockies. These conditions have not been met, and the Zoning Committee has since recommended to the Plum Committee to discontinue use of the property as a bar. Mr. Patrick's actions have not been conducive to being a good neighbor, and by not adhering to these conditions has shown disrespect for not only the Zoning Committee, but to the neighborhood as well. I must now support the recommendation of the Planning Committee, the Vice report, as well as the recommendation of the Police Department of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this last speaker, hold on, was for the recommendation. So let me give the other side one more speaker because time has run out. And I had either Joshua Kaplan, David Carlat, William Charles Carpenter, or Glenn Levine.
Thank you, President. I'd like to address my comments to Councilman Labange. My name is David Carlat, and unfortunately, counsel for the Rockies has left. He was originally told that this matter had been already disposed of, so unfortunately, he's not here. But I do want to thank the councilman for reopening this issue because it's a very important matter when you're going to close a business down and basically confiscate someone's business. It's a serious matter, and it does need to be heard. And I just want to relay a few facts that I don't think you're aware of. I do believe you've been ill-served, by the way, Councilman, as to the information you've received over the last couple of years regarding this matter. Your planning deputy suggested rhetorically that I may believe that you are some kind of part of some kind of an effort to close this place, and I don't believe that for a minute. I do believe you've received a lot of false information, though, and I want to just relay a few very important facts about this location that I don't think have come to light. First of all, there was just a mention of a patio, an illegal patio. This is a by right location that's been there for 40 or 50 years. That patio is a by right patio. It is true that the Building and Safety Department did cite this location for an illegal patio, but in fact, at 2 hearings now, the Department of Building and Safety has come to those hearings and admitted that there was in fact, and is in fact today, a legal patio. Yet that patio is closed by order of the Building and Safety, which was of course an illegal order. Not only that, but the Building and Safety Department also illegally ordered half of the restaurant to close, claiming that that restaurant did not have a certificate of occupancy. I submitted to the zoning administrator and to your office proof that in fact that restaurant was legal, did have a certificate of occupancy, and that that order was also illegal. The sad fact of the matter is that many of the matters that were used as nuisance abatement in this case were in fact erroneous. It did not have an illegal patio, therefore the fact that the patio existed was not a nuisance. The fact that the restaurant was operating within its legal bounds and was not illegal when it was ordered to be closed, part of it was also an erroneous order.
Let me ask you to conclude, please.
So in conclusion, I would ask today that the councilman postpone a decision on this matter, meet with the representatives from Rockies, meet with some of the neighbors who in fact support this location, and learn all the facts before the final decision is made, and you basically take away the rights of this owner to operate his business. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now ask the clerk to put up a 5-minute clock to hear from speakers on the other side of the issue. Mary Weaver, Cherise Kurtz, Kelvin Wilburn, Anthony Sidlowski, and Louise Spiegel.
Hi, I'm Mary Weaver. I live at 10738 Aqua Vista Street. I am the Neighborhood Watch Council of our informal Neighborhood Watch, and I speak with the authority of 14 of the 16 property owners on our street. We are in favor of the zoning administrator's decision, and I have to present a couple of letters that fell through the hole when we were at the Plum Committee from neighborhood residents Eileen Korn and Bob and Thelma Kelly, and a letter from Senator Alarcon, which I would like to present on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Sharice Kurtz. I am probably the closest resident living to Rockies on 10716. I've been living there since 1996. The noise nuisance is still going on, loud talking. They're open past the time they're supposed to be open. Cars are peeling out of the parking lot. People are urinating on the street at night, right in front of me, right in front of other residents on the street. There's no security guard. All these conditions that were put on there were not met. There's trash still out in front of the bar. Several of us are feeling threatened by the owners of the bar. Stephen Patrick just made a comment today about, we're going to take you all to court, things like that, he said to one of our neighbors today, for signing a petition against him. In conclusion, again, all of us on the street, most of us believe that the decision should be upheld by the planning board. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Sidlowski. I live at 10729 Aqua Vista Street. The Rockies that these people keep describing went away 2 years ago. The Rockies that's there now gave us motorcycles tearing up the street at 2:30 in the morning, waking me up, waking up all the dogs in the neighborhood. We've got trash all over the place. We don't need it back again. They want their patio back. They want to have their parties with people out there cursing and partying and yelling and whatever until 2 in the morning. They want the motorcycles tearing up the street. They want to be able to do their burnouts on Aqua Vista. I don't need it. I need my peace and quiet. I hope you give that back to me.
Hi, I'm the senior resident here today. I've been there a quarter of a century. The people who've been there over 40 years are sick and at home right now and just can't take it anymore.
Your name, ma'am?
I'm Louise Spiegel. I live at 10729 Aqua Vista Street, 3 doors down from Rockies on the same side of the street. I don't see any of our neighbors that are directly affected by this here today. Only neighbors here are the ones that don't enjoy the quiet enjoyment in their homes. Anyway, the old Rockies was incredible. The owners of the previous Rockies were very neighbor-friendly and wanted to live as a good neighbor. That's not the case in this particular tenancy. There's loitering, there's fighting, there's loud patrons, there's one of our neighbors had found somebody come over from the bar where they were fornicating outside of her house, one of the elderly ladies, in the bushes. There's no security guard. Very few of the conditions have been abided by. And we're the majority of the property owners in the area. We're the ones that are directly affected by it. All these hundreds and thousands of names come from Sylmar and Simi Valley. You know, they don't know. And you know, with all due respect, this gentleman here who has his restaurant's far away and his home is far away, so he doesn't know what we have to go through as a neighbor. We just want our quiet enjoyment back. And Mr. Riaz knows that at the last hearing, the head of planning came out, the vice came out, and the LAPD came out. And they all had evidence. In fact, one of them said that they had never seen as high a blood alcohol level as one of the patrons that came out of, remember that? One of the vice or LAPD said they'd never seen that high a blood alcohol level. So they allow people to get really, really drunk in there. And then they send them out into our street. I'm an old lady. I'm 51 years old. To me, I'm an old lady. Anyway, when you got guys coming out saying, hey, baby, you want to, you know, when I'm going over to my neighbor's house, and I'm getting hit on by, you know, by guys at night, it's scary. I can't go out of my house and feel that I'm safe. And I don't think that's fair. Anyway, And you saw what everybody had to say, the vice, and everything. There's been stuff going on that's really funky, and we just don't want it anymore. We just want peace and quiet, and we don't have to move. We were told if we want peace and quiet, we should move to the country, you know? That's what we told one of our neighbors. You don't like it? Move to the country.
Thank
Do
you.
we have to move? I don't think so. Thank
All
you.
right. I'm going to announce this is the end of the public hearing then and read the names of other people who submitted speaker cards into the record. Kelvin Wilburn, Joshua Kaplan, William Charles Carpenter, and Glenn Levine were also here to speak. So your cards will be added to the file. We now return to council discussion. I have Mr. Weiss, Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that what we just heard was a public hearing, but as someone who sits on the Plum Committee, this was a rather abbreviated version of the public hearing that Mr. Reyes conducted in the Plum Committee. From my standpoint as a fact finder, it was rather abbreviated when it came to representation from the community, from people who have been affected negatively, who've had their quality of life negatively affected by the operations of this establishment. And when you sit on the committee that Mr. Reyes chairs, you have the opportunity to really sit across the table from these people, look them in the eye, see how they react to the testimony of other individuals, and have a give and take with them, with the zoning administrator, with other planning officials, with the city attorney, and with the council office. It is the way this council has done business when it comes to making these sorts of decisions, and I'm very proud of the way that business has been done for the past 3.5 years under Mr. Reyes. And so what that has generated before you is a report. It is a report that's a distillation of what was a rather lengthy hearing in Plum. Mr. Reyes, could this hearing have gone on in Plum more than a half hour? Conceivably could have gone an hour. It was a long, involved hearing. And at the end of that hearing, I think Mr. Reyes, Mr. Cardenas, and I made the correct decision. Mr. Labange and his staff worked very hard, listened to all sides in this issue as they worked their way through it. And at the end of the day, I have complete faith and confidence that Mr. Labange and his staff made the right decision for this community, and that the Plum Committee likewise made the right decision for this community. So I would ask the council to uphold our decision.
Mr. Reyes.
Just one point I want to emphasize. At the hearing, we did have the police department, the staff, they had literally a file this thick of all the issues and all the incidences that had occurred in this particular venue, how it impacted local community. Renee Weitzer from the office of Tom Labange was very, very thorough in laying out the facts as she saw them when she was trying to work with the owner the first time. On that particular instance, we did have the father come forward. He did say he lived in Philadelphia, he came here for this issue, and that his son was mainly managing this facility. But he could not be there on a day-to-day basis. So we were able to lay out conditions in hopes that these conditions would be adhered to, in hopes that we would provide the type of time frame that would demonstrate that indeed we do have a good neighbor. That did not happen. It did not happen. It became very clear from the local residencies. It became very clear from the LA Police Department. And again, given the leadership demonstrated by Councilman Labange, we made our decision based on these facts, based on these hearings. And I do try my best to give everyone at least 2 minutes to speak. We do hear all of the technical issues from the planning staff, and they're very thorough. And we have come to this conclusion, and I ask you to support our committee report.
Mr. Labange.
Members, thank you. Community on both sides, thank you very much. As Mr. Reyes is chair and Mr. Weiss articulated, as Mr. Cardenas was a participant of that, and this was a hearing that was held before, and also the Los Angeles Police Department that serves that area and that is called to that location on numerous occasions, was there to voice their concerns. Unfortunately, due to schedule conflict of staffing, they weren't allowed to be here today, but the message is very clear. This has been a challenge for the community. This has exceeded what were the guidelines established by the planning department to be a good business in the community. So it's a very difficult decision to make, but it's a decision we must make in order to continue to abide by the law of making sure quality of life exists in all neighborhoods. I thank you, and I ask for an aye vote, and I especially want to thank the committee members who were so diligent in hearing this matter, as well as my staff and the planning staff for this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to defend the bikers. I have a group of motorcycle riders. I see your Harley shirt. I also ride a motorcycle, and I have a group of motorcycles, hundreds, that congregate in my district every Wednesday night. And we have a place where they congregate, and the establishment makes sure that they conduct themselves in an orderly fashion. And I visited the location a couple weeks ago, and I noticed a Highway Patrol motorcycle officer there, an LAPD senior lead officer there, talking to the people, and they have established a disciplinary process, and they conduct themselves in an orderly fashion. And it's incumbent upon the establishment to take that lead, so the neighborhood is not negatively impacted. And this takes place every Wednesday night, and hundreds of motorcycle riders congregate. They have coffee, they have discussions, and most of us, when we were younger, used to cruise Van Nuys Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard, and it was a nice, safe place in those times. That has all changed, obviously. But I just want to say, as far as the establishment goes, and I don't have personal knowledge of this location, but it's incumbent upon that establishment to set the ground rules. And in my district, this particular establishment has set the ground rules. People cooperate, the neighbors don't complain, everyone gets along nice in a positive fashion. So I support the committee report on this, but I just wanted to say that if the establishment takes the lead and establishes the ground rules and establishes the discipline, then they don't end up with this type of situation taking place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Other members of the council wishing to be heard? Seeing none, let's open the roll once again on, this is item 29. Roll is open. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. And Mr. Labange, the same for item 28?
On 28, this matter here, we do have a card on 28.
We have two cards on 28, Joshua Kaplan and
Mr.
John
Kaplan.
Bernardello.
And the planning department's here on 28? Good. Can I ask Ms. Letty, would you just take the center table, just very briefly, just give the council that?
And once again, folks, this is a quasi-judicial matter.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Emily Gabel-Luddy, Deputy Advisory Agency. This project is an infill project, and in Los Angeles, infill can sometimes be very contentious. Approximately 4 years ago, the project was before me as advisory agency. I did turn it down. It was requested at 17 dwelling units, and at that time, the Department of Building and Safety entered a report that did not approve the project. Subsequent to that, a new applicant came forward with a new project substantially redesigned, reduced the density to less than 17 units. We received a favorable report from Building and Safety and considered all the other effects of this project, and I did subsequently approve that project. Through the process and on appeal, the project has been reduced from 17 dwelling units to 12. They are configured in a detached condominium type layout. The project also went through the Mulholland Design Review Board process. I believe it went to 4 meetings. The planning director ultimately approved it. It was appealed, as was the tract. The Area Planning Commission heard all the items and objections on the project. They made some modifications. The project was approved by them. It was further appealed, the tract, to the Planning and Land Use Committee, and at that time, the issues were re-examined with respect to this proposal. It is an RD 1.5 zone. It does conform to the plan and the zone of the area, and the project before you today is a project that was approved by the Plum Committee on appeal and is consistent with my recommendations and findings.
Thank you very much. I will now open the public comment and hear from Joshua Kaplan, if he's here. Is Joshua Kaplan here? Going once, going twice. John Bernardello.
Hello, Mr. President and council members. Yeah, Joshua Kaplan was the attorney representing the appellant, and I'm the builder. So I guess I didn't really need to speak. I just wanted to thank you guys and just say, you know, this was a long, hard process that my sister and I are going through for the first time, and we got a lot of even though the council office at first didn't agree with us and we worked things, a compromise out, we really appreciate Renee Weitzer's working with us, and especially Emily Gabeletti. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. This will conclude public comment for item 28. Members of the council wishing to be heard? Mr. Labange.
Yeah, just members, thank you. And also, I just want to thank your son for being the most attentive young man who's ever sat in this chambers for these almost 3 hours as you waited for this hearing. Again, Mr. President, I thank you. I was out of the room at the start of the meeting. Did get to call these items. I thank you for your reconsideration, and I thank the Planning Department staff work on this. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas?
I just wanted to reiterate for the people listening right now, we gave this a very thorough and diligent effort in the committee, the planning committee, and the chairman gave everybody who was there the opportunity, afforded them the opportunity to speak and to be heard. So I just want to let everybody know that this has been heard in committee, and today we've opened it up again for an opportunity for people to speak.
Okay, if there's nothing further, let's open the roll on item 28. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you again very much. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
The next item, Mr. President, then would be the closed session items.
Okay, we've done our housekeeping. So in accordance with California law, the council will now adjourn into closed session. Sergeants, please clear the chambers. Welcome back into open session. Madam Clerk, next item before us, please.
First item before council is item number 59, and that is settlement in Q West Communications. It's a tax assessment, and the amount of settlement is $250,000.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
Next item is item number 60, and that's a settlement AMCO system parking penalty waiver request, and the penalty waiver request is $168,158.35.
Please open the roll, please close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith. Next item.
Next case is item number 62, and that's Kiwi versus City and William Bratton, and that's settlement is for back pay with no interest, and that's 6 months shorter than the writ, to rescind the demotion and restore to sergeant, and each party shall bear its own attorney fees and court costs.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith as well. Next item.
And next item is 63, and that's Whetstone versus City of LA and William Bratton, and that's back pay and interest for the 2-day suspension, remove guilty findings from personnel files, and each party shall bear its own attorney's fees and court costs.
Okay. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith.
And that clears the desk.
Okay, colleagues, that's the end of our agenda. Do we have any announcements today? Mr. Villaraigosa.
Adjourning motion.
Okay, any announcements? Mr. Labange.
Oh, I think it was an absolutely wonderful day yesterday. 2,900 miles away from here in Miami, where the University of Southern California Trojans defeated Oklahoma in a tremendous football game where they showed their great expertise as student athletes and working so hard there at his conquest. This great coaching staff led by Coach Pete Carroll and Norm Chow and all of them, and it showed how hard they work. And there was the president of the university, Steve Sample, beaming on the stage as they were receiving the trophy. It's a long time from summer workouts to go through that whole season, and their great quarterback, Matt Leonard, and the great job that all the athletes did and the tremendous pressure they're on. They bring great pride to the city of Los Angeles and to the Southern California and to the West Coast. And it was just great to see. It was very enjoyable to see how well the USC played. So I just wanted to stand and join with many of you who would salute the great University of Southern California on a great effort. Fight on, as they say. And I know I'm going to pass the ball over here to Bernard Parks right now. I got you. But I know you're planning some celebrations for the university, so I thank you.
We've been in touch with the
Thank you,
university.
Tom. Mr. Parks.
We've been in touch with the university, and they really appreciate what we did last year. But this year, they want to do everything on campus. So they're going to be getting us information so they can have everything on campus, their students and everything. And this is, for those UCLA graduates, this is the second year in a row. I just wanted to bring that up. National champions. And I think it's the 11th national championship for USC. And I think they won 5 last year. I mean, so just wanted to bring that up. The only mistake in 2 years in football is MIT's involvement with the BCS, and so they're the ones that put that together, and it's still not working. But we've won it on the field.
Well, you're not happy with number 1? Is that what it is? Other announcements, Ms. Gruhl.
I'm going to embarrass my colleague, Mr. Zine. It's not easy to do. Don't do it today. Okay. I'm going to keep it secret.
That's a
Just say
teaser.
it's bold.
We'll
Do we know that?
reconsider on Friday.
Well, yeah, we'll reconsider it another day. Okay. Thank you, Mr.
But I know what you
Padilla.
know. I know what you
You want to
know.
break my heart, probably.
Mr. Cardenas.
I just want to speak for the other half of the Angelinos who are UCLA fans. Regardless of us being UCLA fans, USC did Los Angeles proud. And actually, they did the country proud. I was watching the game, and the announcers were talking about how respectful those students are and how good human beings they are. And that was a wonderful thing to hear from a bunch of jocks talking about football, which is probably about all these announcers talk about all the time, sports. They took the time to note that these young men on the field are good citizens and they're good people and they have their head screwed on right and they got the big muscles and they run that football and all that good stuff. But the bottom line, I was very proud to hear the commentary of the people who've gotten to know this team and to realize they're not just good on the field, they're good on and off the field. So they did us proud as Americans, and they did us proud as Los Angeles. Even though I'm a UCLA fan, I give credit where credit's due. They are the champs, undisputable champs.
I think part of the testimony to that is the quarterback, Matt Leinart, when he was asked whether or not he's coming back. That's actually a question. In this day and age, most college players, you know this, Mr. LaBonge, who win the Heisman, they're thinking NFL, they're thinking big money. But for a guy to be given serious consideration to foregoing a professional career for at least a year, to return to playing college because he enjoys the college experience, I think is a testament to him, a testament to the coach, a testament to the program at USC. So we're indeed, all Angelinos were proud of USC's performance yesterday. Congratulations to them. Other final announcements? If not, please rise for adjourning motions. Adjourning tributes. Mr. Villaraigosa.
I want to adjourn in memory of Maria Zamora. She passed away on January 3rd, 2005. Maria de Lourdes Zamora was born on August 15, 1956 in El Zarzal de Rodriguez, Baja California. Upon arriving in the United States in 1986, she began to work hard toward achieving the American dream. She used the energy and dedication to her business, Zamora Services, which she owned and operated for over 10 years. She always looked for opportunities to help the less fortunate, even if it meant sacrificing the little that she had. She could always be found in and around in our neighborhoods, helping others and taking pride in her community. And she was looked at by many as an angel in calling. And her deep belief and love and faith always guided her to do what was right by others. She's blessed with a full life, and she will be missed by all who knew her. She's survived by her parents, Francisco Ruiz, Graciela Zamora, her brother, Osvaldo Zamora, her sister, Laura Zamora, and her daughters, Monica Velasco and Graciela Ruiz.
Mr. Zine.
I have two, both law enforcement officers. The first is Sergeant Kelly Marie Shea, Sergeant with the Los Angeles Police Department, passed away December 27th. Kelly was 45 years of age, born January 17, 1959. Kelly began her career with the Los Angeles Police Department February 23, 1981. She was a pioneer of women in law enforcement, as she was only one of a few hundred female police officers working the field assignment at that time. Kelly's dedication and work ethics eventually propelled her to the rank of sergeant at Hollywood area. Supervisors, officers, detectives, and civilians often came to Kelly for advice and for a caring shoulder to lean on. She was a department peer counselor and never hesitated to awaken in the middle of the night to help any of her peers or a community member. Kelly was last assigned as the officer in charge of Pacific Area Community Relations Office. As she did throughout her career, Kelly gave 110% of her heart and soul to her job, which positively affected the community and her co-workers. Kelly will be deeply missed by all of those who knew her. She is survived by a brother, Daniel Williams. Her services were held yesterday. I knew Kelly personally. She was a wonderful lady, a wonderful police officer, and about a year or so ago she discovered she had cancer, and she went through the battle with that, and sadly she passed away.
We second that, Ms. Misikowski and myself.
And all members.
All members. And the other adjourning motion is for Glenn C. Sorkness, passed away December 21st. Glenn Sorkness was 50 years of age when he passed away December 21st of a heart attack. He was born July 3rd, 1954, graduated from Burbank High in 1972. Sergeant Sorkness was born and raised in Los Angeles before he moved to Burbank. After 31 years of service with the Burbank Police Department, he retired as a sergeant in September 2004, had been enjoying retirement for the past few months. He loved police work and thrived on being out in the field. He was dedicated to public safety and to protecting the lives of the community for several years. Dedication to public safety runs in the family, as Sergeant Sorkness's twin brother, Alan Sorkness, recently retired as a sergeant from the Los Angeles Police Department's West Valley Division and served the community in the same manner. Sergeant Glenn Sorkness was loved by his family and friends, will be greatly missed. He is survived by his wife of 24 years, Rosalind, son David, daughter Mallory, mother Ruth, twin brothers Alan, sister-in-law Sandy, and nieces Shelby and Erica. May they both rest in peace, Sergeant Glenn C. Sorkness and Sergeant Kelly Marie Shea.
Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.